and welcome to our episode 1. Thank you so much for being here. Well, I am super excited to introduce you to our content partners and our whole community of specialists that are chomping at the bit to bring you resources and tools for all my campus leaders. In this episode, I'll introduce you to the executives of responsive learning. I really want you all to get to know who RL is, why we care so much for campus leaders, educators, and students, where we've come from, and really just what makes us tick. So, in this episode, I sit down with Greg Steele, Pat Fox, and Tommy Tinajero as we explore the history, future, and the passion of responsive learning. Let's dive in. Greg, Pat, and Tommy, can you guys tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Go for it, Greg.
Sure. So, my name is Greg Steele, and Pat and I, oh gosh, what was it? About 15 years ago, had mutual friend, Kay Carr, that was a retired superintendent, had served on all kinds of state boards, had been appointed by then Governor George Bush and to a technical committee, and had served at that state board level, and just an amazing lady who really had a passion and a vision to love kids through loving teachers. If you serve teachers and really help them, support them, then you're also loving kids, and that was deep on our heart. She had this vision of being able to use technology to help and support and love teachers, which would then in turn love those kids. And it just rang true with us. We were like, you know what, that is work worth doing. That's a business that, we can employ people who have like hearts and passion for serving teachers and helping education be as top quality as it can, especially in rural areas where maybe you don't get to always hear the greatest speaker because you're just you're not on the list. You don't make it sometimes. So bringing every teacher the opportunity to hear from some of the very best professionals who have, hey, this is a great technique. Let's love our kids this way. And that was just super exciting. And I have a technology company, Steele Consulting, that specializes in building web systems and mobile applications and database heavy high performance systems. We work for Fortune 500 level companies, and those so the opportunities were there with great experience in the education space with great technology. We were like, you know what, let's bring this together and just have a super fun time. So Pat, I'll let you explain how you came into it, but man, I just fell in love with the opportunity and the vision, and said, hey, yeah, I'll work with these guys. This is going to be a blast.
So you knew Kay, and Tommy knew Kay.
Well, actually,
is that right?
Pat knew Kay first,
okay.
So we came in with.
Okay.
So we'll let Pat. Why don't you explain how that worked?
Yeah.
I met Kay through Pat, so and
Okay.
It was hilarious. Yeah, he brought me in. He said, "You need to meet this lady," and I don't even think he prepped me. He just said, "Come meet this lady. You're gonna love her." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I trust you, man. Let's come talk." So.
Okay, so Pat, how did you meet Kay?
Yeah, Greg did a great job explaining how it all got started. Kay was a superintendent in Del City, and it's a very small rural community. And again, like Greg said, she has a heart for the underdog, and so she was out there and won all kinds of awards, did all kinds of great things. But we were the external independent auditors for the school district, and so we've known Kay for forever, 35, 40 years, I guess. And when she retired, she started a company called Quality Learning. And we had gone to meet with her in Houston and her existing partner, and it just wasn't quite working out. They just couldn't really get things going. And when we came back, there was just this kind of a thought. I wonder if Greg could help with this. I wonder if we could do something. And then, kind of just blew that off and said that's a dumb idea. That's not what don't call Greg. And I was walking through the parking lot. I really felt like God said, that's exactly what I want you to do. Call Greg. And so it was one of those things where you wrestle and you go, no, he's busy. We shouldn't get involved in all of this. We're not going to do this. He said, no, that's exactly what I want you to do. So, okay, out of obedience and a leap of faith. And it really was. I just told Greg, hey, you need to meet this lady. And when we did, I think the first meeting lasted about 4 hours, and it
Yeah.
just went from there. And
One of those,
yeah, it was crazy. And then I'll just really quickly, Tommy wasn't there early on, and we struggled for many years. And then Greg, a few years later, I think it was a few years, he says, I got this guy Tommy. You need to meet him. I really think Tommy's going to be the one that's going to help us. I said, okay, well, let's meet. And so then when Tommy came into the fold, everything just kind of took off from there. And just real quick, because there'll be a whole lot more, but Tommy and Kay were oil and water, or vinegar and oil, or whatever you want.
Sure, yeah.
I
got it.
We made a great salad dressing.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that the very first few years, my biggest role was just to mediate between Kay and Tommy. And it just went from there, though. But that's how we got started, and that's how we knew Kay, and really responsive learning is Kay's vision, and we've been really blessed to be able to just run with it.
Yeah, and it's so cool that still, 15 years later, we're still doing that.
Right.
Like, that's just awesome. Yeah. So Tommy, what were you doing before responsive learning? Like, why was it that Greg, like, what were you doing that made Greg think, hey, Tommy would be good here?
Well, Greg and I met, right around the time I met my wife, at the time she was just this beautiful gal that I wanted to be my wife. And so we were going to the same church, and we had some interactions. We ended up just, getting married and all those things. We bumped into each other just on a, I guess it was a God thing. We were sitting in the same row of a church that we were both visiting in Dallas when we had both moved to Dallas. We didn't even know where each other's were, and we were in Dallas. And then, so we ended up doing a bunch of things together there for the church, and we had a really fun time together and built a relationship. I moved to Portland, Oregon to run a company up there, and did that, started a company. We did just a bunch of stuff up there. I was there for about 7 years. And I was on my way down. We were in Moab, Utah, driving this big giant U-Haul, moving my family down from Portland when I got a call from Greg. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm moving back." And then he said,
perfect.
Yeah, he said, "Hey, come meet with us." And I was like, okay, so pretty much, showed up to the meeting and met Greg. I met Pat. I'd never known Pat, and I didn't know Kay at all. And so he introduced me to them, and was totally impressed by their vision. Kay was, and is just she's an amazing woman that has amazing vision. She's always thinking way ahead of the time. So, the opportunity was for me to work and kind of make something happen. And these guys were going to provide a lot of help. The tech IT side was going to be done. There's the business back end was going to be handled by Pat, and Kay was vision and was going to help me just kind of get into education. And I was just going to try to make it happen. So that's how we started. It was a long time ago, and it was really, it doesn't really actually seem that long ago, but has been a really amazing thing. And one of the things that just is so great to see that every time we take another step forward in what we are doing, we just, connect with Kay, let her know what's happening, and it's just mind blowing that we're still moving forward. We still haven't accomplished what her vision is, but we're getting, we're moving forward every year. We're in a different place. So
Yeah.
So tell me more about that oil and water,
oh
oil and vinegar. I'm really interested what that was like as you guys, started a business and started working together. How you moved through that? Like what was that process like?
well, I guess the oil and water are oil and water, probably vinegar and oil. I like to do that because it's more of a salad. You can put some spices in it and it makes something amazing. Uh, but I would say that Kay, she was so passionate about helping teachers reach kids. The most influential person in a student's life is going to be a teacher, and I bet we can all think of our lives, and besides our parents, I can
Yeah.
think of several teachers who made a big difference in my life that helped me to
Yeah.
formulate the way I think and feel, and how, what success is, and how to be humble. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are tied to what a teacher can do for a child, and especially, with parents working in single families and things like that. Teachers are so important. And so Kay was very passionate about how do we help teachers, um, um, just basically know their why and accomplish that. Like, just get in there and be passionate
Mm,
about serving kids and meeting them where they're at and helping them.
okay.
So, um,
Okay.
she had a lot of ideas of like what teachers need, and they were right.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
the biggest challenge was, when you start a business and you're selling and you're marketing, a lot of times when you start off with, where are you and how can I help you, right? Was kind of the starting point that I was trying to kind of move on. And she was like, no, but we need to, here's more, we need to be doing more. And so it was kind of a little bit of a battle there, but,
Would you
and it
say she
wasn't as,
probably always had kind of 10 more ideas than we had capacity to
oh,
do? So it
yes,
was like, hey,
yes,
guys, this is really
Okay.
important. We got to
Yes.
do this.
yeah,
It's like, but Kay, if we
Right.
do that, we won't ever finish anything. We have to
Yeah.
finish. Let's get this
Yeah.
yeah,
one thing done, and
Right.
then let's get this next thing done. And but she was always
Yeah.
thinking, 3 years ahead, and everything she was thinking was right.
Yeah.
Teachers did need that. Teachers did
yeah,
need
Yeah.
that, but we also were like, guys, we have to finish something, or we're not helping the teachers at all.
yeah.
Yeah.
We had to start somewhere. We had to get something
Yeah.
moving forward. And again, her passion, she would call us regularly just saying,
uh,
"Hey, let's do this other thing. Let's
yeah.
do this new thing." And
Yeah.
Mhm.
and she was, powerful that way because, looking back, a lot of those things that she talked about, we're now doing a lot of those things,
Mhm.
and they're making a difference. And
Yeah.
so
Mhm.
that was the
Yeah.
early years. But Pat would get in the middle and just kind of, talk. He would translate language to me, and then get Greg would get in there and encourage me, but also say, hey, let's slow this down and kind of bring some order. And but just like every business, I mean, if you're starting out, a lot of times they're just a lot of, you start out, um, with some struggle, and you learn how to work your way through it. There were
Mhm.
some things that we did, even some conceptually, some of the things that we started off with was, with responsive learning. We knew we wanted to build, professional development for teachers, and so then at the very beginning, we actually brought people on to be those content experts, right? To build content for us,
Mhm.
but and they were like employees of ours, kind of. But
Uh-huh.
then as I went out, as we developed our first product with, it was the previous, teacher, appraisal system orientation. We worked with TEA on some of that, and um, and as I went out to start selling, I would ask the districts, and our customers, share with me your PD plan. Like, what are you going to do this year? Your schedule. So they would share it with me, and then I saw that 12 of them had pretty much the same schedule, the same content, and the same trainings that they were going to do.
Mhm.
So then I asked them, well, how are you developing this training? And they were reading the same
Mhm.
books, talking to the same people, going to the same conferences. So we started to see that there's a lot of work being done, great work being done at school districts, but it's very kind of the wheel is being reinvented over and over and over again. And so
Okay.
we kind of thought, well, why are we going to do the same thing? Why are we going to bring people on
Yeah.
board to do that? Why don't we just go to those authors and those experts that everybody's paying attention to, and why don't we build their content? And then this, so that the school districts don't have to do that work, and they can move on to
Right.
the next best thing that's on their list of things. So that really became the launch pad for what we are today. That was kind of like the
Okay.
foundation. So it really started to formulate in our minds, let's let's build alliances and partnerships with content people,
Okay.
with organizations and associations to better serve teachers, and let's just
Yeah.
ask the question, what is needed right now? Like, and we got in the middle. We basically try to get in the middle of all of that so that we can connect experts with teachers. So what's beautiful about it is that we build content, and that teacher that Kay knew in Dell City, little Dell City, that teacher would never get to go to a conference to visit with an amazing content partner. Well, now we can bring that content
Yeah.
partner to that teacher.
Mhm.
So that was kind of like the starting point of where things really started to take off in our vision.
Okay. And remind me, when did RL actually get started? Like what year did you guys kind of launch things?
Well, there were I guess Pat could probably answer that better. I mean, I'm sure my dates are off.
Yeah, I probably need to look, but I think it was 2005, 2006, around then. And Tommy said something that was really big, where he said, how can we help you? That was one of the things with Kay. One of her favorite things to say would be, because she was an educator, she always dealt with big companies, salespeople, and she would say, don't come in here peddling what you got. Come in here and ask me how you can help. And then maybe I can look at what you got. And so I think that's really
Yeah.
been a big thing, even today, with Tommy having user groups. It's
Yeah.
not, okay, we're going to show you what we're doing for you, and we're going to show you how we can help.
Right.
Tommy always starts with, how can we help? What do you all need?
Right.
Which is so much of what's the pain point. And anyway, it's really driven so much of what we've done just by asking, how can we help? And, without adding more to your plate, how can we take things off your plate? And a lot of that just came from Kay, because in the early days, she used to say responsive learning was built for educators by educators. And that was a big thing with her. She wanted
Mm,
people to know that,
Mhm.
I get it, I've been there, and we're here to just
yeah.
add value to you. And how can we
Yeah.
help?
Yeah.
Well, and that's something I've noticed that I appreciate so much is how much of our sales staff and the people that do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff have been in education. It's
Right.
not just
Mhm.
some business people or some sales people that have no idea what's ever gone on in education, but we have folks that have been teachers, that have been principals, that have been coordinators, that have done all of these different
Mhm.
Right.
roles helping direct us. And I think that's something that's really missing in a lot of the ed tech companies. And I really appreciate that. I
Right.
don't know how the name responsive learning came to be. Like, why were those words chosen for this company?
Well,
Do you remember, Greg?
yeah, I I know that we were saying we didn't want things. We know that learning doesn't happen in a one-way funnel. You don't just pipe your
Mm-hmm.
grand knowledge into somebody. It needs to be responsive,
Mm-hmm.
reactive, interactive, and we liked the
Yeah.
idea of connecting teachers. So like even in our very first early courses, we still wanted to have this interactive peer connections. So, hey, let's take this course together. Let's make it like a book club. Let's make it like a town meeting where you get together and you practice and you try things together, and then you report back to each other
Yeah.
and say, hey, you know what, this worked really well. Hey, check out my adjustments to my curriculum. Look what we did with this lesson based on what we were learning together. This was really fun. Here's some of the feedback. Here's some of the assignments that some of our kids did based on that lesson. And there was so much more engagement, and you kind of build that energy with each other, because no matter how technical our world becomes, we're humans, we're people. We smile when we see someone else smile. We get excited when someone else is excited. And group that humanity has to always be there, no matter how cool the technology is. It's about people. It's about one-on-one with each other. It's a little village of educators moving together to really make a difference. And that's so we never want to lose track of that. So responsive learning is the idea is, hey, we're learning, we're responding, we're changing, we're iterating, really making it better, and never staying in the same place, always growing forward. So that's, I think that was kind of the spirit of what our goal was. Last thing Kay ever wanted to do, and we started building this in early on, was never just put a talking head up and just spout information. It had to be constantly responding back and working together on what we're learning. So engaging, yeah.
And one other thing, Beth, just quick, it's funny because that's how we lived up to the name responsive learning, and I think that was the idea, the spirit of it. But it was another partner of Greg's, Phil Apple, that we had tried to bring on early on, and he loved the idea, and he just said, I think this is going to be a lot of work. And anyway, Phil said,
and he was right.
Phil said, yeah, and he said, I think I'll bow out of being a partner with you, but let me help. And so he really came up with the name.
Oh wow!
Phil came up with responsive learning, and we all said, oh, this is good. Mm-hmm. And then we just kind of lived up to the name.
Yeah.
So it was really one of those things that was. Yeah. Anyway, it is a fun story.
Yeah, and living up to the name, it seems hard, because you have to. It basically requires us to slow down, right? To hold back, because like you said, we have a lot of people on our team who are educators, and so we already start off with a fairly good idea. But sometimes we don't, and sometimes the idea that we come up with is just not, it might be enough off that it won't be helpful. And so, when we started doing things like user group dinners with our customers, where in those meetings, we treat them really great, and we ask them, like, we might show them some marketing messages to ask them to, give us a feedback on whether it what it said to them, and if it was, they were, effective. It might be a time where we're just brainstorming new solutions or new ideas, or it might be that we have a product, and sometimes out of one of those brainstorms, we'll come up with an idea or product. Then the next time we meet with them, we said, okay, we took your ideas. This is what we're developing. Sorry, there's a train going by. This is what we're developing, and what do you guys think? And they poke holes and they tell us what works. And then we just keep going through that process. Some of our products have taken a year, 2 years to work with them to build these things out, to make them really what is most effective and helpful to educators, whether they're teachers or the administrators. But slowing down is hard for a business that wants to grow and wants to make an impact, right? But what we have found is that we have made such good friends we have it has been such a valuable experience in slowing down and just having these great conversations and connecting with people, and really also getting to know what really makes them tick and what gets in the way of them accomplishing what they're set out to accomplish. So it's
Yeah.
hard in a way. Even today, I mean, probably in the last couple of months, we've had to say, okay, wait a minute, that's a great idea, but let's take it to our customers. Let's find out what they're thinking, you know,
Hmm.
and we
Yeah.
have to always be very purposeful about that. It doesn't necessarily come very naturally to us and to a lot of
Yeah.
people, but I think it's more
For
part of our
sure.
DNA and it's easier for us now. So whenever
Yeah.
somebody says
Yeah.
that, it's like, yes, that's what we need to do, rather than but we need to get this to market, whatever. So.
Yeah, listening's just such a key to everything. It's so easy to talk, but it's harder to listen, and that's so critical in even in the in a fast-paced business world. Even more critical to stop and listen and slow down, and whether that's listen. I was thinking about how critical it's been for us to have our help desk leaders uh, on the leadership staff, so that they can provide what was happening yesterday or today. How do we make lives better when it really comes down to it? We want to make lives better through the technology that responsive learning's offering, through the connections, through the bringing of uh, specialists and folks that are really studying each area of education. How do we how do we do things the best way possible, but really having that interactive, um, responsive type of approach. So every time somebody's having a harder time doing something or learning something or scheduling something, using the system to coordinate hundreds of teachers. I mean, it's like, if you're working with campuses in across your city, across multiple cities, and you're trying to coordinate all these individuals who have competing priorities and complex schedules, and you're trying to get all of them
Yeah.
to take certain CPE credits or get certain certifications that are required or whatever it might be. You're trying to
Hmm.
get everybody together so that they can be that community and learn from each other, but they have different schedules. Those are
Yeah.
challenging. It's like herding cats for sure. so so
Yeah. Yeah.
the curriculum coordinators, the PD coordinators, they have a challenging job. So listening to them and helping them, um, it's not just about delivering a great course. It's also the infrastructure, the railways,
Yeah.
so that you can have thousands of
Yeah.
teachers coordinated, and it all, and they can all come together, even though they're taking courses at different
Yeah.
times. Because heck, even if you have a bunch of teachers coming into the old school way of doing PD, where you have a big gymnasium and you have everybody in there, uh, not everybody's really
Yeah.
in there. You've got folks doing the crosswords in the back. You've got grading papers going on. Someone else is thinking about their, what they, their sick child at home. Uh, so
Hmm.
making a place where everybody can really come together and focus on an idea, a concept, a way of growth, a new way of teaching, or a better, an
Yeah.
incremental improvement to a teaching strategy. Those types
Yeah.
of things are huge, and so that's kind of some of the things that we've learned along the way, is that just having the great concept for a course or whatever it might be is
Hmm.
just one step. We also need to have all the
Yeah.
infrastructure in place for thousands of teachers to come together and
Yeah.
have that, and the coordination of that. So
Yeah.
What has that process been like, the reevaluation process? Like, that sounds horribly uncomfortable and difficult to kind of pivot. And that's consistently it's like, hey, if we need to pivot, we can, or if we try something, like, that's such a part
mhm.
of how responsive learning operates, is taking a step, and if it doesn't work, like, hey, let's take a different step in a different direction. How have you guys kind of become comfortable with that pivoting, shifting, reevaluation process?
I would.
Or are you
Oh,
comfortable with
right.
it?
I mean, I would say I would say that we're probably getting more
No.
comfortable with it for sure. You
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
honestly, just even coming into the company from the very beginning, you know, Greg, Pat, and Kay were
Mhm.
very much like that, giving, you know, like for instance, they gave me the reins to just go and build. Um,
Mhm.
and it has not been a, you know, just a flat road that's wide and no potholes.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
in fact, the first
It's
part,
never
the
fun
first
to
several
hear the
years,
feedback that isn't happy. Like, oh, this is great. We love this. It's
Right.
never fun to hear that feedback. But you know what? It's the best feedback.
yeah, we've experienced so many, uh, you know, very very significant changes in when we got feedback from our customers, or sometimes it
Mhm.
might be feedback from a customer, but sometimes it's just like, man, how do I feel about how is this company doing, and is it allowing, you know, me to be like, for me, for instance, me to be me, and for Greg to
Mhm.
be Greg, and for all of our employees to be them, right?
Mm.
And so, like one
Yeah.
example would be when we first started out, you know, we were building courses and I was out selling, and
Yeah.
we were kind of building a company and adding some employees. And at one point, I was at a conference, and I was exhibiting. And you know, if you've ever exhibited, it can be grueling, you know, unless you're doing
Yeah.
something fun, right? But it was grueling,
Yeah.
and it's like
Mm.
trying to fish when the fish aren't biting, you know, a lot of times. And
Sure.
so people
Yeah.
are passing by, and you're trying to get their attention, and it just everyone is just hard. Um, and if I can just kind of paint a picture of what it was like, it wasn't like this, but it just in my mind, it was like the whole exhibit hall was dark, okay, and everybody was just like, you know, like there was gnashing of teeth or just kind of like fighting for customers and stuff like that. There was one booth. It was like the clouds had opened and the rays of God's light were on that booth, and they were having a party over
Yeah.
there, right? And I'm not going to tell you what they did, but it was probably one of the most boring things I could possibly think of. But they were having a great time. Like their service, it was like,
Yeah.
you know, their service, it was like like auditing. You know, it was like, come on, how
Okay.
can you be
Sure.
excited about
Hey.
that,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Pat.
Yeah.
But
Totally agree. Completely
it
agree.
was like accounting.
Yes.
So anyway,
Cut
but
the
they were
wrist.
having a fun time over there, and so
Yeah.
at one of the breaks, I walked over there, and I wanted to talk to the owner, and I asked him for 5 minutes of his time, and he sat with me, and I said, "What are you guys doing over there? I mean, you guys are having fun, and everybody's excited." And he just said, "Look," he said, "I read two books, and or well, there was one for sure. It was one book, and I think I have it here somewhere. But anyway, it was one book he read, and then he took time and he changed his whole company over to this thinking, this kind of approach. And so I got the book, I read it, and studied it for like three. It was about 6 months of time where I was working with Greg and just kind of formulating this whole idea. And then we came in and we kind of changed the company around this concept that worked with us. I mean, it was like, that is who we are. Let's just do that, and we'll have fun doing
Yeah.
it, right? And so the idea was that building, not focused on building customers, but building evangelists.
Okay.
So the idea was, let's let's provide a service to our customers that's so great that they freely talk about us, right? But then what was important was that we then started to apply that with each other. So the team does that with all the other teams. They say, okay, you guys are our customers. How can we help you? And we're going to blow your minds with service. So the marketing team does that with the sales team, right? We ask for their help, and then we say, we're going to blow your minds with service internally, and by doing that, we do it externally as well. You know, so that was kind of like this
Mm.
a big pivot that we made up. It was probably the one of the most significant pivots. The other I want to mention is we
Okay.
had a customer, and I hope to get her on this podcast soon. But you know, should I mention her name? I guess I can, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Lisa Van Gemert. Lisa Van Gemert
Oh, yeah.
she's amazing. And the first time I met her, I thought, man, that she's just an amazing person, amazing trainer, so smart. And so we started working with her, and this was way back, and the first thing we built for her, she did not like it at all. I mean, she had, oh,
Really?
she was she just didn't like it. What our approach was, we're going to take your content and then we're going to make it into something amazing, right? And we didn't even occur to me that she took the time to build something amazing. Just leave it alone. Let's just take her stuff and make it into a nice course. So we messed around with her design and all this stuff, and she let me know right off the bat, hey, this, anyway. And it took us a little bit of time. I mean, it was probably a few years of seeing her at conferences and saying, hey, let's talk, and just manning up and just saying, I'm sorry, and just trying to talk to her. And then finally, we had changed our approach, and I met with her, and she gave us another shot. And what we did, she loved, and so her listening to her feedback and taking it to heart, we completely changed the way we build online courses with our customers' content, and that has made it so that we can create content faster, get it to market faster. We can provide a greater service to our content partners and help our teachers faster because the content is getting from their minds into their hands quicker. So those are some big ones. Those are some really big ones. So
that's so Lisa came to you, you provided her something, and she took that and said, I don't like it, and then didn't talk to you guys for a while. Like, it's like you didn't keep going. Like, she kind of just said, hey, no more. Well, is that what happened?
No, yes. I mean, sort of.
Okay.
Sort of. She said, she was like, man, she was like, borderline.
She's offended. Just such a big part of responsive learning now.
Oh.
Like, this is so fascinating to hear this story about Lisa, because she's just, I mean, everyone at RL just loves her, and she's amazing, and she's so well known. I haven't heard this story before.
It was brutal. The first thing is when you get feedback like that, there's a big part of you part of me that I was like, wait a minute. How can you not like what we did? We did it, and we gave it our all, and we were just so excited, and to hear that our model was broken, it wasn't that she walked away from us. It was, a part of it was like, man, I don't want to work with you guys anymore unless you change something, right? So there's a part of that that's true.
Totally.
But there's another part where I'm just licking my wounds and just trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So there was a time where we weren't like constantly talking, and it took time for us to rebuild our ideas of how we were going to do things, and we started building some courses using that new model, and that's when just having that conversation with her, it was just kind of like, hey, trust, just give us one more shot. We heard you loud and clear. This is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
And she gave us another shot, and it didn't take long for her to just start building a lot of courses with us. And she's now easily one of our most successful content partners. Yeah.
So Beth, what really happens, it's the way Tommy runs everything. He makes everybody mad at him. They leave. And then he wins them back, and then they're fans for life. And it started out with his wife, Tammy, and then it was Kay, then it was Lisa Van Gemert. And so that's what it does. It's just how he does things. He's amazing.
I think that's, I mean, we jest and we laugh, but repairing from conflict is an essential part of running a successful business, but maintaining successful relationships.
Yeah.
And so it's so fascinating to hear that, like, yep, everyone is going to make people mad. Everyone is going to have conflict. but it's the people that can repair from that and move forward and move through that build successful
Yeah.
relationships and businesses.
Yeah,
And
it's so
that
true.
listening component that all of you have talked about, how important listening is,
Mhm.
and that responsiveness, like it is
Mhm.
such, as you know, I haven't been here very long, but knowing you guys for years, that's a part of your life.
Mhm.
And how that kind of works into the ethos of the company is just
Yeah.
so interesting to hear the history of that.
Yeah, it's so true. You know, if the things that we were dealing with, if nobody was passionate about it, if there wasn't a lot of energy,
Yeah.
then you could probably get along
Yeah.
just fine. But these are
Sure.
things that make a huge difference in a teacher's life. This is a huge
Yeah.
in the day to day. These are things that make a huge difference ultimately to a student, and everybody's so passionate. Nobody's doing this because the the paycheck is so huge. You don't become a teacher, you don't become
Right.
a
Right.
education
Yeah.
specialist, someone who studies this because you're just like, hey, this is the best way to make money. No, people are doing this because they
Right.
love kids, they love
Yeah.
teachers, they want to make a difference, that
Yeah.
it's imparting to our future some of our very best. And that kind of passion, when you hit the hard times, when you hit bumps, when you hit technical challenges or whatever it might be, yeah, you're going to get, what's going on here? How dare you suggest doing this slightly differently than the way that I've put all this
Yeah.
energy into? So
Sure.
there's a lot
Right.
of, uh, passion around these things. And when you look back, you're like, okay, well, maybe those were closer than we thought at the time, but everybody's really passionate. We don't hire people who aren't passionate. I mean, everybody's got a high level of energy and excitement, and all of our content partners, they are just so excited, and they would do it for free. They
Sure.
would do this, and they work 60-hour weeks. They really put their heart and soul into these things. So yeah, conflict resolution and learning kindness, ways to forgive, ways to just love people in the midst of lots of passion and energy and that type of thing. It really is a core part. And even just, it's also related to the idea of not throwing people under the bus, not pointing fingers, making it a safe place. Just owning up. You know what? If this is 20% our fault, 10% our fault, 90% your fault in our perception. It's always our perception, right? It's like, well, let's do the right thing. If we've got any ownership in it at all, even if there's a perception of ownership of a mistake, you know what? Let's own up and let's do the right thing. Let's go above and beyond to fix this, to repair this, to do what, and whether that takes, whether that's a financial risk or a loss or more time on our side, or we put more energy in, or we work over a weekend, whatever it is, that's really a core part of the way we do business. Because I mean, it's just crazy how simple it is, but doing the right thing is a great business practice, and then it also is a great education practice. It's just a great way of relationship in all things that we do. So
I would say that also spills over to another thing that's really key for us, and it's true even in the way that we some of the products that we build, is that
Sure.
in our company, we have a culture where we want people have permission to make decisions and fail, right?
Sure.
Having
Yes.
permission and having
Yeah.
I say permission, but let's use that word for now.
yeah.
That it's like the permission or the hey, it's okay to fail. Try something, right?
Yeah.
Make a
Yeah.
decision and try something. And we didn't get here having made no mistakes. I mean, we've made some
Sure.
big financial mistakes. We've made some big how we do things. I just mentioned a couple that we talked about. We've made some mistakes,
Sure.
and how can I expect employees to not make mistakes? And as soon as there's an expectation to not make a mistake, you then lock them down, right? They're not going to make a decision.
Yeah.
So now all decisions come to you, which I become a bottleneck, right? And that's assuming that I'm really perfect at making decisions, right? And I'm not.
Right.
So we're just likely, we're more likely to get to a great decision and product or whatever we're doing, if
Mhm.
somebody else
Yeah.
makes that decision and we're just like, yeah, that sounds good, let's just go, then to
Yeah.
all decisions come through me. And that's also something
Yeah.
that we do with, we want with, we try to bring to education as well, is that,
Mhm.
teachers, uh, a strategy is not going to work
Mhm.
100% of the time. There's
Right.
changes in the
Of course.
demographics of a classroom that can make a
Yeah.
big difference. And
Yeah.
um, so the idea behind a lot of our training is that teachers get to try a strategy, talk
Sure.
about it, maybe even say this didn't work and this is maybe why,
Yeah.
or this did work, or it didn't work at first and this is what I did to it so that it
Mhm.
it worked. And
Okay.
sharing all that
Yeah.
information is really important for growth. And if a
Yeah.
teacher feels like, hey, I can only, I can't make decisions, I can't try things, then you kind of lock them down
Yeah.
also. So we try to take that approach and
Yeah.
just say, hey, let's just allow things to be tried, and
Yeah.
for there to be collaboration like in PLCs and other ways to kind of talk about
Yeah.
how to move forward and take what was tried and learned to improve.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So tell me, do we I don't know. I haven't been a part of the design team in a decade. Are we building some of that into the actual courses, a way for teachers to meet with their PLCs or to meet, like how are we making that possible for teachers?
So we have several different products that we offer. One of them is the online courses,
Mhm.
right?
Sure.
The online
Yep.
courses allow people to take, an administrator to
Yeah.
provide give teachers a large library of vetted
Mhm.
content,
Yes.
organized and categorized so it's easy to
Mhm.
find. And the
Mhm.
reason for that is because, I mean, if you think about a principal who's the
Mhm.
instructional leader of a campus, and their job is
Yep.
to develop and nurture their teachers so that students
Yeah.
get a high level of education, right? So
Mhm.
imagine having 30, 50 employees. Some of them are brand new, first year teaching. Some of them have been teaching for 25
Mhm.
years. Some of them
Mhm.
are working with special ed, and some of them are working with
Mhm.
in gen ed. So you're talking about a
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
wide, unique experiences and needs,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Think about
Mhm.
this. Teachers come from different universities and they learn
Yep.
certain things. Some of them were heavy on some things and heavy
Absolutely.
on other things. So
Yep.
they come to school, or they come to their work having
Mhm.
different experiences. And how is
Mhm.
the principal to provide unique,
Yeah.
targeted,
Right.
differentiated support and training to each teacher?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
that by itself, just providing PD that way is a
Mhm.
full time job, and they have other
Yeah.
jobs, they have other roles, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
so with our library, what it allows them to do is to provide that differentiated development and uh, uh,
Mhm.
professional learning for the teachers. So it makes it
Sure.
easier for them to do that. But then inside of our courses, teachers can,
Mhm.
through reflective questions and different activities, they contribute thoughts. Whenever they do
Mm.
that, right
Okay.
after that, they can see what others have said about that, whatever that is, right? So that's one
Okay.
way, and
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
not it is a good way. It's not a great way to have
Mhm.
interaction. So we developed another
Sure.
product called PD to Practice, and
Yeah.
PD to
Yeah.
Practice was based on some research that came out that showed that professional development is about 30% effective, which means
Yeah.
uh, of the millions of dollars in a district that are spent on
Right.
training, only 30% of it makes a
Yeah.
difference in the classroom. And
Yeah.
so we worked with administrators through those user groups for two
Mhm.
years
Mhm.
to develop how can
Mm.
we help that? How can we make PD more
Mhm.
effective? Because that research is
Yeah.
true for even our training. It's not just
Yeah. Yeah.
traditional face-to-face
Right.
training. It's all training is about
Right.
30%
Yes.
effective, which means
Yeah.
we've all experienced this where we go to some training and then it's
Of
great stuff.
course.
We've
Yeah.
taken great notes and then it goes on a shelf.
Yeah.
We never pull it down
Yep.
for a lot of different
Oh
reasons.
yeah.
So how do we help
Mhm.
them to learn and
Mhm.
apply and try, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
have a reflective process and a collaborative
Mhm.
process so that they learn from each
Mhm.
other and keep doing that. So a lot of districts and a lot of
Mm.
campuses have PLCs already built into their plan, and this is a system that helps them to do all of that. Yeah. So it is designed to make a PLC
Mhm.
much better. It's a system, and then all of that
Mhm.
information goes to the administrator so they can see what the teachers are using, learning,
Sure.
applying in the
Yeah.
classroom, and how is it working, and what
Yeah.
outcomes they're experiencing with their students.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So that took a long
Yeah.
time. That was a big process where we were working
Sure. Of
with our
course.
customers on developing that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing.
And when people use it, there's a significant, like a three. It's like a, the effectiveness is more like in the 70
Uh-huh.
78% range of effectiveness. Yeah, it's a
Really?
big
I
difference.
hadn't heard
Yeah,
that.
it's a big difference.
Man, that's cool. I love that. Yeah, that's awesome. We've talked so much about what responsive learning is really good at, what our strengths are. What are some things that you would like to see responsive learning grow in over the next year, 3 years, 5 years? What would you like to see us change or move into or adapt to?
Well, so we have spent almost all of our time building
Mhm.
courses for teachers.
Mhm.
And we're still, our library, we have, about 400 courses in there, and it covers a lot of different
Mhm.
areas, mostly in the area of
Mhm.
gifted education and SPED, and
Sure.
a lot of
Yeah.
instructional strategies, things like that. Uh, what
Yeah.
One of the things that we're working on right now is developing a library of
Mhm.
training for campus administrators, and helping them with, and we're initially focusing on those brand new, administrators, aspiring principals, and also maybe the principal who's struggling a little bit. And so
Yeah.
we're wanting to build a library to help them, um, and support their
Mm.
work as well, because it's important. It's really
Yeah.
important. If the teacher is the most influential in a student's
Yeah.
life, the
Yeah.
principal is the most, influential in a
Oh,
teacher's life. So if we can do that, then
so true.
we'll be doing really good.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been parts of campuses that have horrible administration that's not supportive, that's maybe not present, that brings no energy or no life to the school. And they just bleed teachers. And then now my kids are at a campus that is phenomenal. The principal is amazing. And everyone just kind of like what you were saying, all of the teachers are just these raving enthusiasts all of the time and evangelists for how great the school is because of our principal. Like, that's really what the difference that is made there, is because she's just a phenomenal leader.
Right, right.
So that's so exciting to give, especially leaders that don't have support, or that are in rural districts, or that
Hmm.
don't have maybe giant service centers supporting them and training them. That's really exciting.
Yeah. And why does uh, somebody excel and someone else doesn't excel? I mean, that's the 100-year question,
Hmm.
right? The two, the decade, the
Yeah.
century-old question of,
Yeah.
how do you really help somebody? Well, for the for the for probably everybody who excels, there's a support group,
Hmm.
there's inspiration, there's
Yeah. Right.
exciting, somebody excited them, someone took time with them. And so if there's ways
Yeah.
for us to build that community, if there's ways for us to build a
Yeah.
support group, for us to help people be
Yeah.
inspired in whatever their role is,
Mm.
there becomes
Mhm.
this moment when it becomes this positive momentum.
Mm.
And then once you've got that momentum,
Yeah.
then everybody can join. Folks
Mm.
that are kind of on the fence, like, am I going to be an
Yeah.
influencer? Am I going to be a detractor?
Yeah.
They become influencers. They
Yeah.
become part of the positive momentum.
Yeah.
And that
Right.
moment can happen from all types of things. So,
Mm.
if we have better tools that aren't
Mm.
frustrating, we have
Yeah.
technology that helps,
Mhm.
if we have inspiration, we have a little
Yeah.
bit more time to be collaborative with other people who are positive,
Yeah.
maybe bringing good ideas
Right.
that we, uh, can be inspired by. Those all
Yeah.
those little things move us to that tipping point where
Mm.
you've got that positive momentum, and
Mhm.
then everybody's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get on the bandwagon for positivity, for optimism, for moving
Yeah.
forward." And that's,
Yeah.
if we can be a
Yeah.
part of that in any way, I mean, those are the kinds of
Mm.
things we're always thinking about. How can we do that? How can we
Yeah.
make somebody's day easier, better, so that they can really focus on what's exciting and fun? Um, so.
And Tommy, maybe you could just talk about the VR thing just really quickly, that because Beth asked, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. It's kind of a neat thing that's come off through partnership, and so
Yeah.
Tommy could maybe just speak to that a little bit.
We're kind of in the early stages of working on some solutions and some training that would be leveraging and using VR, virtual reality, and AR as well. And so, um, you know, that technology is not going to get smaller. It's only going to get more. It's going to be adopted a lot more. So we're exploring different ways to use VR. Right now, we're centered and focusing on things that teachers have to go through. Sometimes it's mostly like compliance stuff for the most part, but and the very starting point right now is school safety. So like lockdown and school shooting and evacuation, things like that. So we're working with a partner on building content, VR content. We're right now going out to our customers, showing them what it's like and getting their feedback, and they're helping us kind of finalize the development of the training tools and tutorials and things like that. So we're getting pretty close to launching all of that. But we're also, as we're doing that, exploring ways to use it for things like classroom management and moving it kind of up the chain to more pedagogy. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think it's going to be, when we got into online professional development, there wasn't a lot going on at the time, and what was available wasn't very user friendly, and so we were kind of ahead of this, ahead of the wave. And now that there's a lot more professional development, I think there's a new thing coming up, and I think VR is going to be part of that.
We're kind of coming up on our time here.
Great.
Good.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else that you would like people to know about who we are at Responsive Learning?
Oh,
You think of
we
anything?
were talking about the nuts and like the inner workings. The oh
Yeah.
wow!
Mhm.
I hope this is.
Yeah.
I hope somebody can watch this and say, "Wow, that's a growing like an organism that has been adapting and changing."
Mm. Yep.
and and
Yeah,
they get
Yeah.
for
to
sure.
know what we're all about,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I would just say that we're very
Mhm.
open to new ideas and things like that. So,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
anybody reaching out to us through any of our social media channels or
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
website, if you're a content
Yeah.
partner who, we're in about 300 school districts in Texas and about another three, or
Mhm.
actually it's more like
Wow.
500 to 600 outside of Texas. If you want a marketplace and you want your content out there, just call us. If you're an administrator that wants content and want to talk to us about how maybe we can help you, and we'd love to learn what we can do to help you. So, give us a holler.
Okay. Anyone else have any closing remarks or things that you'd like folks to know before we leave?
It's all about just having conversation. It's have, be kind, be, look
Yes.
for friends when you don't realize that you have them there. I love that, they say that President Lincoln, he actually pulled his opponents into his cabinet because he realized that opposing viewpoints really was going to be the direction that he needed the country to go. He needed the full idea. We don't want to be in a vacuum. We don't want to be just in a
Yeah.
group full of yes yes people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so really, it's about having the dialogue, and even when you've got opposing alternate points of view, use those things, because that's where the best ideas are always going to come from. Don't just find people who agree. Be kind to the folks that disagree, and really dive into that conversation. That's where we're really going to grow.
Thank you guys
Thanks,
so
Beth.
much for doing
It was
this.
fun.
It's been great to learn and
Yeah.
experiment and try this whole thing out. You guys were so
Thank you,
great.
Beth.
Thank
So
you.
much.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you.
was a lot of fun. Thanks for having us.
Okay.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
There you go. The official history of responsive learning, of where we came from, and hopefully where we're going. The production for this and the music that you hear was done by Erwin Solbach. Our logo and design work is from Alana Kanoy of Steele Consulting, Greg Steele's tech company that helps make responsive learning possible. All of this podcast, these interviews, they're a labor of love from the folks at Responsive Learning, and we really hope you enjoy. Thank you so much.